Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we are going to do a character guide on Rydia. So Rydia is the newest LD character to come alongside the other two new BTs, obviously, but she's the newest like LD only character. So in this video, we're going to go ahead, we're going to take a look at her spheres, her artifacts, and then we're going to just do a quick playthrough guide explaining her kit and kind of just roughly how to play her. I think Rydia is a really fun character. She's not like a must-have character by any means, but she is really good, and if you're a fan of Final Fantasy IV, which I am, and you like Rydia, like she's a cool character to pick up. So she's kind of a favorite for me, so I definitely did want to pick her up. And it's kind of cool because we'll get to kind of dissect her in this video and see what kind of uses she's going to have for your party. I do think she does bring some really good utility, right? So let's go ahead and look at the passives here. So I don't even have three equipped. I was working on her passives, that's why I don't have them all. So for her artifacts, I'm a little bit short to equip all those. That's fine. I'll throw something else on for now. But for Rydia, you want to do 3 attack 108 and Survivor of the Mist boost. I don't know what has kind of triggered this, but like literally this week, I've had like 4 or 5 people ask me, do artifact effect stack? And the answer is yes, they do. So you always want to stack you want the best artifact and you want to stack it 3 times. I'm not sure what triggered all the questions, but they're like from different people. And I've never had anybody before ever ask me if they stack. But for some reason this week I had like 5 people ask me. So yes, artifacts do stack. You do want to just stack 3 of the best ones together. So you want 3 attack 108, 3 Survivor of the Mist boost. If you can't get that exact combo, attack Max Brave 330 is another good substitute you can put in there. And then we're going to go ahead and take a look at the spheres. Pretty typical kind of build for spheres. So for A spheres, you want to do attack or brave damage. Once again, for A spheres, because there are so many of them, there are a lot that have different requirements. I like to kind of hit the requirements that if a character has a specialty, I like to give them spheres that fit into that specialty because then those spheres can't be used by other characters. I like to save generic spheres for characters that maybe have trouble finding spheres, right? So Rydia, part of her kit is that she's basically always going to have weakness damage. She does water damage, she does enchant and peril, so she's got all that going for the party to give your party weakness damage. So I just did A spheres that have weakness damage that are either boosting her attack or her brave damage or both. So I put 7s on there. So when attacking brave enemy's weakness, then you get brave damage 4%. This is on the refined, by the way. And then Rydia's own sphere is actually really, really good. So brave damage and attack percent. So that's actually a really, really good one because you're getting a little bit of both, which is really good. In the C slot, a lot of C spheres have to do with like healing and stuff, and Rydia doesn't really do a lot of that. So try to find something that's going to buff the party's attack or brave damage that she can do. Alpha Nods is a pretty easy one, so that's what I put on. A lot of characters in the game grant buffs, so like pretty much every button Rydia presses will grant a buff to herself or the party. So this will activate often. So this does parties in brave and attack. So it does have some attack in there. So I went ahead and did Alpha Nodes. Okay, so that's spheres, but you just look at what you have, right? C spheres are definitely a lot more limited, but just kind of look at what you've got. So let's go ahead. We're going to hop into a quick little showcase here. Sure, we'll just run with that for the team. So we are doing the Garnet Ramza sandwich here for the showcase. I think I might, if I get extra time, I'm just going to do some like separate showcases of other characters. And I might do like a Ramza Garnet sandwich series and just show like how good characters can look on that team build, which is pretty crazy. I've already had people commenting like, yeah, I've been using the Garnet Ramza team and they're just absolutely insane. And they are absolutely crazy, not going to lie. So sure, let's go and do this. Why not? Let's just start off with a little LD action here. Basically with Ramza, I talked about this in his guide, but you want to get his shout stacks up to 3 very quickly. And the best way to do that is use like LD into shout, get the stacks going. And then you can go into, LD from there or, BT from there. All right, so let's talk about Rydia. So Rydia's got a few things in her kit. So she does weakness damage, but she does it like, basically, she does it better than anyone other than Bartz. I think Bartz is still like the king of weakness damage just because Bartz has it as an aura. There's like no way that enemies can get around it. But Rydia does something really cool to get around it. So we're going to start off with her LD and kind of explain what that does. Rydia doesn't really have like a set rotation of like the order you want to do the moves. Basically, just use whatever move. I'll go through all the moves, right? Use what you want based on the situation, but basically with Rydia, she's just kind of like a buff upkeep character. So you just watch your buffs, upkeep the buffs with the move. So just watch like which move is giving the buffs and make sure you're using that move when you need to refresh that buff, right? And Rydia's got a lot of like fairly generic buffs that like just boost her stats and the party stats. Her LD buff will like increase party damage and stuff. So just generic good stuff. Once again, in these videos, I don't go over like every bit of like the numbers. I don't explain every little thing. I think that gets a little tedious. Once again, these are just simple guides kind of explaining how to play the character and what they do, right? So let's go ahead and use the LD. So when you use the LD, so one thing is her EX and her LD, they both ignore defense. So the damage is going to come out and like feel pretty good, even if the enemies are very tanky, right? So that's the first thing. Now, the other thing is, and to show it off, I'll have to give the enemies some turns here, but she gives the team a blink buff. So like, I'm going to go on Rydia here. So see how there's this blink here and there's no turn count on it. So this is the great thing. So the LD gives this blink buff to the whole party. It's got 3 stacks on it, no turn count. It's literally 100% evasion. And basically every time you evade, it ticks down until it's gone. But the fact that there's no turn restriction on it is absolutely incredible, because you could be like no turning a boss. So let's say you're doing one of these bosses, right, where it's like, you can push them back really easily, but they punish you for taking like 5 turns in a row and then they jump up to the front. So let's say you don't have Layla, like Layla's the best at dealing with that kind of stuff. Let's say you don't have Layla, you can do Rydia's blink, push the enemies back, go crazy, let them jump up to the front. They're just going to miss all their attacks. Rydia can just refresh blink and you can just go crazy again. Like, it's pretty good. Like, you can kind of do some shenanigans with it. So the blink is very, very good. That's one thing that comes out of it, right? Yeah, I got to pay attention to Garnet a little bit because I want Rydia to look really good here. We're going to get some buffs going, some debuffs going. Let's go ahead and throw a little set down. And then I'll use the burst attack here. Now, the other thing that the LD does is it does a debuff to the enemies called Water Weak. And what it is, it's an Imperil, but it's like a Mega Imperil. And what it does is normally if a boss absorbs an element, like you're kind of locked out. Even if you try to Imperil, most of the time it'll just, like the bosses just get healed from it. But this one basically will do weakness damage even if they absorb that element. So that's why Rydia was synergy on Leviathan, who is a water type summon, right? And Leviathan absorbs water attacks. So they wanted to show off Rydia's ability to, even though Leviathan absorbs, that Rydia's LD can kind of get through that and still deal weakness damage. So that's the other thing. The cool thing is Rydia has Summon Leviathan, which is her 35 CP attack, which we'll show right here. So Summon Leviathan is her 35, and this one does water resist down to the enemies. It's just a normal Imperil, right? But if they have the Water Weak debuff from the LD, Summon Leviathan will actually refresh that. So she'll still keep the better Imperil, which is really, really good, right? So you're also going to notice here we got a free skill use after our LD. So that's the other thing. So since I was just talking about, let's do Summon Leviathan. So it does pretty decent AoE damage here. Yeah, you see 300k AoE, that's not that bad, right? So we just did that, and like I said, that it does do some buffs. So like her 15 and her 35 both do buffs, so you just want to upkeep those. The LD does have a buff with it as well. Like I said, a very good one. Just upkeep that. And once again, we just had that Imperil, and that would refresh, right? So even though it's a normal Imperil, it'll refresh the better debuff, which is the Water Weak from the LD, right? So really with Rydia, the way to look at her, just think of her in terms of the water weakness damage and blink. Those are like the two really big things that she brings. She's also a magic damage dealer. So if you're in an event where you want magic damage or need magic damage for whatever reason, that's another reason to bring Rydia. But otherwise, she's a fairly simple character, right? The next attack I'll show is her 15, which is Flare. That's her better damaging skill. So usually, like if you're free to just choose whatever you want, Flare most of the time is what you're going to want to do. But once again, it depends on what you're upkeeping for buffs, what the situation is. All right, so we're going to let the enemies get a turn here. So we're going to go ahead and pop Flare off here, just so you guys can see what that looks like. Yeah, 760k single target with a little splash. And then you can see it's just all misses here. So basically you saw her blink count down, and then there's a miss there. And so once again, with no turn count on the blink, you really can just ride it until you feel like the timing is right. So this is really good for like bosses with recast abilities, bosses that jump to the front when they hit a threshold. Like Rydia can really help you deal with some tough mechanics that way, right? Now it doesn't, it wouldn't negate any HP damage, but if they're missing, they can't do HP damage, right? So it's really Brave and HP can't really do anything to you in this situation, as long as you have stacks of that blink left. So yeah, very, very good. What are we going to do here? So let's just do another Aquamarine here. Just keep our Brave Gain stance going. And then let's see, Ramza, I think he's pretty decked out. I mean, we can throw this on. And yeah, we can just let the orb go off here. We don't even care, right? The orb can go off all it wants to. And you can see the rest of our party now, we're getting weakness damage, which is really good. Once again, Ramza's HP triple attack, we got to do another shout here to get up to it. But his HP triple attack, he's basically like in this team comp, Ramza's like a mini Machina. Okay, so watch this, because you know Machina is so good because he uses HP pluses. So watch this HP triple attack. It's going to be like darn near a mil. Yeah, 800k. It's almost like a Machina. And he's just like a support character. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, look, misses all around, right, from the blink. So now the blink wore off. Well, it just so happens that Rydia's got another turn here. So now we could refresh blink if we want to, right? And you can see there's a ton of enemy attacks coming. So I know I haven't used her EX yet. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But let's take advantage of this, right? Really show off how good this blink is. We're in a situation where, like, if you're doing a really tough Lufenia Plus and you're like, oh my god, the enemy's got 4 turns. Now we just got a little quick action there. So, but for the split second, there was like 4 turns in a row, right? So it's like, all right, well, let's pop off the LD, get our blink refreshed. And once again, I love that blink doesn't have any turn restrictions, because this is similar to like Gladio has a buff called blink, right? But it ticks down every time Gladio takes a turn. So you really don't want to get turns with Gladio. Well, with this not having any turn restriction, it's like you can take as many turns as you want. You know you got your 3 guaranteed dodges. So it's very, very good. So here we go. Guaranteed dodge. Nothing. You know, you could combo this too. Like, Rydia, I would say too. I don't know if any of her... I think there are some A spheres that are... Because I talked about like weakness spheres. I think there are some A spheres that are like evasion spheres. So actually you could give evasion spheres to Rydia if you want to play that route, right? So... because evasion is a decent part of her kit. Makes her very good. All right, let's just do this. And then we'll go ahead and just show off the EX here quick, and then we'll kind of call it a video from there, right? Basically, the EX is just another defense-ignoring attack. So the EX and the LD, they both ignore defense, and then just grants her another buff that you want to make sure you upkeep. And it just boosts her water damage, right? 570k, very good damage. Once again, I know this is like... I guess you could call these like showcase numbers, but dude, like if you had these units, like you would want to run this team, like just run this team, and it's like ridiculous. Sure, let's do an Enervate from Ramza, but that's basically it. So let me know what you guys think of Rydia. Once again, think of her in terms of her dodge utility with blink, and think of her as water weakness damage, and then upkeep her buffs, and you're good to go. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think, and we'll catch you on the next one.